Hello and welcome to episode 140 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. I think I'll start us off with a little talk about NBA China. Really tough position for Commissioner Silver because obviously there are a lot of really, really huge financial contracts and revenue at risk with China. But at the same time, the NBA has been one league that has always tried to be socially conscious and socially aware and has not put a muzzle on their players or their people. But in this particular instance, it's really hard because it's not. I think to me, it's not that there's money involved; it's the amount of money that's involved and how it affects a lot of other things that go on. So we'll see how it all plays out. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of negotiating behind the scenes. I don't think we'll ever get the whole story, but you've got to save face. You've got to acquiesce a little bit. And, they're adamant. I mean, I don't think Daryl Morey will get fired, even though some of those contracts were directly with the Rockets and the owner stood behind him and let the money go. So good for him.
And, I'll throw my thoughts in a second. But Daryl Morey, since this new owner's taken over the Rockets, he's been a little bit on the behind-the-scenes hot seat, so to speak. From what I've heard from NBA players, NBA people, that it's not he's not the most beloved guy despite whatever he's done there,
Mm-hmm.
Because you listen to that owner talk, and he doesn't look like the kind of guy that wants a GM that's more famous and more popular than he is. I would say from an ego standpoint, right off the bat.
And so you think he wants to be Jerry Jones, a Jerry Jones kind of owner?
That's how he comes off to me. And he also, when he talks, he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and he's far from it. Now, again, he's way more successful than me, and knows what he did to get there. I don't really care. So I'm not going to discuss his moral things along those lines. But, he seems like he's, when he's saying about Daryl Morey and Jobs, he's talking to people like we don't have video and recordings of things he said in the past, is what I would say, which seems to be something that I don't know what the age cutoff is, but I know from watching, certain politicians along the way, too, it seems there's that same thing where they seem to forget that pretty much everything you've said or done for the last 30 years is on video.
Sure. It stays there.
You just be like, well, that's not what I said. And it's like, well, it is. I think the China NBA thing is just a microcosm for every problem we have in the world right now. We can't have a system that's all about money and not about people. It just can't. It doesn't work that way.
Well, obviously it works that way. We just don't want it to work that way.
We don't want it to work. I don't think ultimately it can work that way. I know that's the way it's going, but I think it's a turning of the screw that's getting worse and worse and worse every single year. And I think eventually, I think you've seen already uprisings in other countries, and I think it's getting just to the point where when a small group of people are allowed to do whatever they want to do for money, eventually it's going to come crashing down. I don't know when, but especially for the NBA to run around with, they've got to sort of have the moral superiority over the NBA or over the NFL for the longest time. We're the woke league, we have LeBron and we have guys that speak out and players that talk. And now you can watch James Harden, who again, it's 1.5 billion customers. It's the Michael Jordan, Republicans buy shoes too kind of thing. Who cares what they're doing to other people over there? It's basically what they're saying. I don't think there's any gray area. I think we do horrible things as our country, but I think that country does absolutely abhorrent things. And I think if you support them in any way, you just don't care about people. I don't think there's any, to me, there's just literally zero gray area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So noted.
But that's enough serious talk.
Let's talk about last night's Steeler game.
We can start with the Steeler game and the Duck.
Let's talk about the Duck.
Not a statistically great game. But Steelers won.
No.
Mainly due to an incredible defensive performance and a really bad Charger offensive performance. I guess we can talk.
At least early on.
Here, let's talk a minor, before we get to the details of the Steeler game, let's talk post comments by the Charger. It could be a sport business Charger thing. Anyone that watched that game or had friends at that game can clearly tell you that was like a Steeler game.
Yeah. I think it was 25,000 people there, and probably 18 or 19,000 were Steeler fans.
And, I saw the Chargers players. I know that the PA system thought they were doing something funny, where they started playing the Styx Renegade song, which they play at Steeler games, and then they tried to do like a 10-year-old bit from the internet where they rickrolled them, but it clearly didn't work. It seemed to fire up the Steeler fans even more. And a lot of the Charger players were saying whoever did that needs to be fired. Like, you don't play the other. Like, it's bad enough that the stadium is full of their fans, but so if you're the Chargers, you got cool uniforms. They wore them last night. Those awesome powder blue. You got Bosa. You'll eventually have Derwin James back. Rivers is at least a fiery guy. I mean, you've got Keenan Allen. You've got Melvin Gordon. Like, how do you get people to be interested in San Diego, now LA Charger football?
You want my honest answer?
Yeah.
You moved to Oakland.
Okay. Because I know.
I mean, I said a couple years ago when the Raiders move was approved to Las Vegas and the Chargers were finding out they weren't going to get a stadium built, I said on social media and everywhere else, I said, if I was owning the Chargers, I would be in Oakland like a shot because it's such a good market. Now, I think he moved to LA because he thought it would increase the value of his team having an LA address. But I've been around this business for so long. You don't spot your competitor a year. You don't let somebody else sell it in that market for a year before you move in.
Right.
And why would you want to be a tenant? Why wouldn't you want to own your own venue? Why wouldn't you want to, there's plenty of plenty of cities that would build a franchise for an NFL team. To me, it was just crazy. I mean, it was a way of getting the deal done for the Rams. And they took on a partner, and it just not working. I mean, the Rams have sold well and they have a good following. The Chargers have not sold well and they don't have a following. So unless that dramatically turns, I don't think they're going to generate the kind of revenue that Kroenke thinks they're going to generate and be able to meet their obligations. In which case, do you let them go? Do you let them out of the lease and let them go do something else? Because it's obviously not working.
No. And again, at least with the Rams, like, they were the LA. I know you probably don't have a ton of fans, but they were the LA Rams at one point. And they have like the history. And
the Chargers were the LA Chargers in 1960.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the Chargers I lived in San Diego for a year. Like, there's just not it's not an adamant, crazy fan base. Like, I think you'd grow that in another city, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres are starting to grow a fan base now, but they're the only show in town. And I think that might work if they're successful.
Yeah.
But it is a tough market. But the Chargers, you could argue the Chargers were successful there. They just couldn't get a new stadium built because of a dislike for the owner. And we've seen that happen when Cleveland didn't want to build a stadium for Modell. He moved to Baltimore. Then Cleveland built a stadium for a new owner.
Yeah.
Houston didn't want to build a new stadium for Bud Adams, so they moved to Nashville, and then they built a new stadium for the Texans. The Raiders couldn't get a stadium built, so they moved to Las Vegas. So conversely, I would think at some point in time, Oakland will build a stadium for an NFL team for a new owner because Oakland's such a viable football market.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. All right, well, now to the good part of the Steelers game. Defense looked fantastic, including Devin Bush, who, despite the 3 missed tackles in the second half, was all over the field. An interception, fumble return for a touchdown. Just, looked great.
He looked like a guy that you made a good move to move up 10 spots to grab.
Without a doubt.
He looked like the impact player that he would be.
And obviously, if you look at that team, like Hayward and Tuitt, and unfortunately Tuitt got hurt last night, they look like studs on the front line. Then you got Bush and Watt on the second line. And I think Fitzpatrick and some combination of Joe Hayden, Stevie Nelson, and Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton, I think you've got a really nice core of a defense. And you probably got a 2 or 3 year window with most of those guys at their peak in that defense.
And I'm going to give some love to Bud Dupree.
Oh, with that, he deserves it this year.
It's a contract year, and he's playing for a contract.
I would say I don't know if it's a defending Bud Dupree, but like, I don't feel like effort has ever been Bud Dupree's part. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a guy that you look at him. He clearly spends time in the gym. He's working on his fitness constantly, and I think he hustles when he's out on the field. I just don't think he's made. You know, he's not a. I mean, he seems like a great athlete that's maybe not a natural football thinker, and maybe that'll change moving forward. I don't know, but I mean, maybe it's taken 4 years before the lights went on, but it seems like he's playing at a different level this year.
I agree. He looks really good. What was your impressions of Duck last night?
I think you could see both in the little pregame little. Did you watch any of the pregame where they showed the duck calling and some of the other stuff, and the postgame? Like
Yeah, I watched.
he's a confident guy. Like there's no question about
Yeah,
that.
very.
Um, and you watch the way the teammates interact with him. Like they like Duck. Like that's a guy. I mean, he has that. As we'll talk later about when we start to talk about who's good and who's not. The quarterback that got benched, like Mariota, never seemed to have that. Whatever that spark is that makes people want to follow you, and the Duck clearly has it.
Agree.
Um, it looks like he's got a decent arm when he throws the football. He had some of those sideline outs. It just didn't seem like the one thing we talked about offline is they don't seem to have any number. They don't have a number one wide receiver or a number one tight end or any real game changers as far as speed on offense that scare you. I don't think.
No, I'd agree with that. There's nobody on the team scares me at all.
Like I think Juju could be the best number two wide receiver in football. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he turns into the best number one. But I don't think he's got. I mean, we've seen him in a number of weeks be shut down by a cornerback, not a corner with over the top safety help like when Antonio Brown was there, but just a good. You mean an All Pro corner, but just one corner.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to shout out the offensive line and James Conner. James Conner broke a lot of tackles last night.
He did. He looked really good last night.
And then before we move on,
but I think the commitment.
Yeah.
I think a commitment to the run game was instilled in practice this week because he knew they had a quarterback that hadn't played much, and if they ever had any chance of winning, they were going to have to run the ball.
As I told you offline, I watched the Mike Tomlin post-game press conference, and the one very interesting thing that he said is they're like, so Mason is you have the bye week, and then Mason should be at a protocol. He's the quarterback going forward. And Tomlin didn't just say yes. He said, I'm not going to get into that right now. So what are the odds you think starting a quarterback next game?
I think Mason starts the quarterback.
Okay. I do too. I thought it was interesting he didn't just say yes. Or if he's healthy, obviously that's our guy. Like he didn't give him that, maybe he was motivating Mason Crosby or Mason Rudolph on some level.
Or maybe he was not wanting to take any of the things away from Duck last night. And that would anything talking about somebody else would have been a negative thing about Duck. And I don't think he wanted to do that.
Very true.
But yeah, let's talk about the who's hot, who's not kind of thing. And by the way, before I get into that, when the Astros were on the road, I guess where were they playing? God, who did the Astros play before the Yankees? The Rays. There was a person that had a poster of Justin Verlander and a poster of Kate Upton, and one had she's hot, he's not. I thought that was pretty cool. That was pretty creative, pretty funny. But so let's start with Mariota. First of all, let's lump Mariota and Winston together, since that was the decision who was going to be one, who was going to be two.
You're Tampa Bay. You call Tennessee and you say straight up Winston for Mariota. Who says no on that trade? Like, would either of those teams just be like, yeah, we'll try the other guy out?
That's an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I don't know if I have an answer for that.
He got benched for Ryan Tannehill, and Jameis threw 5 picks in London. I mean,
If you get benched for Ryan Tannehill,
No.
you're not going to play.
and he didn't just get benched for Ryan Tannehill in that game. Ryan Tannehill is the starter moving forward. So
I think it's kind of like RG3.
oh,
When he had it, you had to make a move and give him a shot in another market to see. I mean, you had so much invested in him, you had to see if you could play another market. And I think Winston would get a shot in another market. I think Mariota would get a shot in another market. Whether it be successful or not, I don't know.
it's very true. So if we go division, if we stick with the AFC and let's start with our AFC North. The Ravens are in first place, but they've only really beat teams,
Due in large part to Lamar Jackson.
right?
Yeah, they haven't played a team with a winning record, I don't think.
So, I mean, I think they're still good enough to win that division, but I don't think that's any contenders in that division. I mean, obviously, I somehow hope the Steelers magically become good, but the Browns look like a mess. There's rumors about Odell being traded, and they're denying it, but another Odell trade somehow. The Bengals are one of the worst teams in football, so that division I think is nothing. AFC South, obviously got the Colts and Texans, I think would be the teams. But do you think either of those teams can win the Super Bowl?
No, because of right now, I think New England's get home field advantage. New England's can go all the way to the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't see anybody beating New England, and they're going to have home field advantage because Kansas City's stubbing its toe, and everybody's darling the Browns isn't playing, and the AFC West teams, Seattle looks, the Seattle's NFC. The West teams, Chargers haven't shown much. The Raiders have shown less. The Broncos have shown less than that.
We'll go with the Broncos are on a 2-game win streak. The Chiefs are on a 2-game home losing streak in that division, as crazy as that is. And in the AFC, you know who the second place team overall is, with record wise, right? The 5-1 Buffalo Bills.
No. That's true.
So, I mean,
yeah, that's right.
And again, the Patriots, for as good as I know, want to take it. I mean, they win the Super Bowl they've been to 9 Super Bowls, they've won 6. They just won the Super Bowl last year. And despite whatever they have, they're undefeated this year. Despite I know they haven't played anybody, but I mean, you can't, So then you go to the NFL. No, they
really haven't played anybody,
and they played even backup quarterbacks and rookie. I mean, they've had a really, really easy ride. So as good as their defense is, and I think they do have a lot of talent there, it's hard to say how good they really are because I don't even know when. I mean, the Bills are the best team they technically played, and they beat the Bills, but just barely.
Oh, before we go to the NFC, we got to talk about Josh Rosen, who famously said on draft day that there were 20-some teams that were going to rue the day they didn't draft him.
He did say that.
That's a lot of words. I think he's choking on those words right now. Because he's obviously not
and
the answer.
Obviously was benched for Ryan Fitzmagic again. So I assume he's going to get one more shot somewhere. I mean, he's still a top 10 pick from the last 3 years. Somebody will give him another shot on the roster. As we saw with the Steelers, Paxton Lynch in uniform.
Yeah, he's in uniform. Let's hope he stays in uniform on the sideline.
Hopefully Mason Rudolph is back and Duck is the backup and he's back on the practice squad or out of the league again, wherever he ends up. We know what Paxton Lynch has brings to the table. All right, so NFC.
Yeah, so I want to give Sam Darnold. Some love for yesterday. The Jets look totally different when they play quarterback.
And much like the Steelers, I mean, I thought Jamison Crowder balled out and looked really good. They seem to be missing. He needs that one guy, just a beast of just give him some weapon on the out, like monster weapon on the outside. And I think they're a completely different team.
Yeah, I mean, they look really, really good. They looked legitimately good yesterday for the first time in a long time.
All right, so let's go
Jimmy G and the
Yeah,
49ers.
the other undefeated team in the NFC is former Patriot Jimmy G, and I was really impressed with that win over the Rams. I watched most of the game, and their
Yeah.
defense is outstanding, and they just look like they look like they can beat you in a number of ways. George Kittle is fantastic. They've got three running backs they can put out there that are all competent and all break big plays, and being Burita and Coleman, they can all go off in any moment. And you got Dante, but they're still like, I don't know who their big. I guess Dante Pettis is one of their. They got Kittle though, which I think is their number one receiver.
Yeah.
In that same division, you got Seattle at 5-1. And if you were, gun to the head, I think Russell Wilson might be the MVP this year so far.
He's played very, very well. Very well. The Rams have been a major disappointment.
Now, this isn't mine. This is actually from Bill Simmons. But if anyone doesn't listen to Bill Simmons, I thought this was a pretty apt comparison. You know who he compared Sean McVay to? M. Night Shyamalan. He basically, he comes out of the gate, boom. He's this fresh young guy on the scene, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, back to back. Looks like he's going to be the next guy. People are commenting, and then all of a sudden it's like you're back to just another guy making. He looks very human all of a sudden, John McVay, and you feel really bad for Todd Gurley.
I'd say.
I just,
Yeah. But they have really been a puzzling team because they ain't even getting it done on the defensive side right now. They're a very puzzling team. They're the most puzzling team in the NFL to me right now.
I think so. And I think Arizona rounding out that division I think they're moving in the right direction. I like Kyler Murray. Like Edmonds and Johnson, and they've got a nice little nucleus. I think they're building in the right direction, at least for now. We'll see how Kingsbury does long term, but I think you're excited if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan.
Okay. And you got to be
excited
excited if
you're
a Saints
5-1,
fan, right?
and you're winning with Teddy Bridgewater. And you've won 2 games where you've only scored 1 offensive touchdown apiece. So you got to be excited, right?
No, I've been very, very impressed.
And I feel like you'd hoped you were going to go
impressed.
2-2 and just ride out the Breeze injury. Now you feel like Breeze can literally take as long as he needs to before he gets back. You don't have to rush him back to the field. Carolina in that division is very intriguing. They were 0-2 with Cam Newton. They're 4-0 without him. You got a really nice defense with Luke Kuechly and those guys. Christian McCaffrey is just a monster this year. And,
he would
he's
be
I think he's definitely his hat is in the ring without a doubt. And then I know I was high on Tampa Bay for whatever reason this year. I think Chris Goodwin and Mike Evans are probably the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver. I mean, they're putting up monster numbers, and James is putting up, monster interceptions. And then you have Atlanta rounding that division out at 1-5.
And you and I both have said on numerous occasions that team and that quarterback are drastically overrated.
And I think that coach might be the next one might be fired. I think, the most intriguing division is probably the NFC North. Because you had Green Bay at 4-1.
With 4
and Minnesota at 4-2.
The Bears having offense problems. And the Lions being rejected.
I don't think the Lions have enough talent to compete with the top teams in the NFL. But Minnesota,
no, but they have enough talent. The Lions have enough talent to make things miserable for somebody on any given weekend. Speaking of miserable,
how about them
Cowboys?
3-3, and they just lost to the Jets. And again, we shout out Sam Darnold and that Jets team did not look like. I mean, I don't know if you had any film to prepare for that Jets team because Sam Darnold was missed most of the season with mono. So I mean, I'm not that excusing Dallas's play. I'm just saying,
So happy 70th birthday
yeah.
to Jerry Jones yesterday.
And then Philly's obviously a very intriguing team because they seem to have a lot of talent. You just don't seem to know what's wrong with them at 3-3.
Philadelphia, the Bears, and the Rams
Yes.
are all very, very confounding.
Yes, they are.
On the other hand, the Redskins are an absolute
Now,
dumpster
do you think,
fire.
conspiracy-wise, if you're the Dolphins, you want the first pick. You're in it for Tua, I assume, right? Did you want to get that two-point conversion, or did you purposely run a bad play?
Now.
Because that screen to Kenyon Drake seemed like it had no chance of going anywhere, especially not for a 2-point conversion. Like,
well, is this, usually when you're tanking, you're out there by yourself.
No.
But not this year.
Yeah, you got.
We've got plenty of bad teams. We could all end up fighting for that number one pick. We could have a coin flip.
Because you got the Bengals and Miami. The Bengals they've got a game lead on them at 0-6. But Miami at 0-5, and then as they said, they were playing the 0-5 Redskins, but then now the Redskins have won a game. So, but I mean, you didn't want to win that game if you're the Dolphins, right? There's not a way in the world you wanted to win that game. Like, what did you do?
Well, yeah, because you'd lose if you won that game and you and the Redskins finish with the same record. You lose the tiebreaker, so you got to be careful of that too.
The coach and the organization. There's probably nobody in there that wants to be the only organization that's been, undefeated and completely defeated. I'm sure nobody wants that open record, but at the same time, you don't want to win a game that costs you the player that you think is going to turn your franchise around.
No.
So I think,
but it's going to be interesting. I didn't check to see if
I think they must, because the Steelers play the Dolphins this year.
But that doesn't mean those two play, because it's the West that you're playing. Everybody's playing everybody. But they could be. I mean, if the Bengals and the Dolphins play, then you're going to know who wants to tank the most, because they're going to trot out people you've never heard of. They're going to play in that game.
The Cincinnati Bengals are in Miami. That's a 12 o'clock game on CBS.
Mark that one on your calendar.
It is.
That is the Pig Bowl.
Because the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah.
Hey, maybe Paxton Lynch could be starting for one of those teams.
Cincinnati has Jacksonville, the Rams, Baltimore, Oakland, Pittsburgh, the Jets, Cleveland, New England, Miami, and Cleveland. So it's not a murderer's row by any stretch. No.
No, but if you don't want to win, you're not going to win. Well, let's park off the NFL, because we had a couple other things we need to talk about. College football.
Big win by
LSU. Who's a very likable team. I am becoming a big LSU fan.
Well, I think they're the big boy without the baggage of Nick Saban. Like, they're fun, They're fun.
Yeah, they're fun. And I like the quarterback a lot. I like the offense. So I like them a lot. And I know they play at Alabama, but that's going to be an unbelievable game.
Well, I think this...
And I'm sure that'll be wonderful. DirecTV's been broadcasting some games in 4K. Yes. That will probably be the next one.
I think, and this is going to sound weird saying it just because of what happened to him in the pros, but he seems like he's the best quarterback they've had in the last 20 years outside of Jamarcus Russell. And maybe he's better than Jamarcus Russell as a college quarterback. I mean, Jamarcus Russell. But Jamarcus Russell was a beast.
Jamarcus Russell.
He was, yes.
A one-trick pony, though. But I like this guy a lot. So it's going to be really, it's going to be, there's some really, really good teams. This is going to be one of those years again, we're going to be lamenting the fact that only
Yeah.
4 teams are going to advance.
Oklahoma with CeCe Lamb, who's my new favorite college player, went into Texas. Got they won that.
Was greatly aided by
Georgia's loss, and Notre Dame greatly hurt by Georgia's loss.
Yes. And now we have coming up Penn State and Ohio State next month. And Uncle Tom's Gophers are also undefeated.
No, and they've got
but they haven't played anybody.
Yeah, and it's such a long road to go from not a contender.
For Minnesota.
If nobody thinks you're a contender to become a contender, you need so many things to go right or wrong for other teams in order for you to move up that high, But it looks like we may only get, because the SEC West does not look like it. They're going to get anybody in. It's hard to imagine at this point. And then, SEC East, yeah. And I think it would take.
You mean the SEC East?
The Alabama LSU game is going to have to just be a nail biter for both those teams to get in, I think.
Yeah, and I said you got 2 big games in the Big Ten coming up, and you've got Clemson's going to run the table. There's no doubt about that.
No,
they have nobody left to play, so I see Clemson, the winner of Alabama LSU, the winner of Ohio State Penn State,
right,
and Oklahoma.
And then you obviously have
if
the LSU Alabama game, especially if it's LSU barely beating Alabama, I think you got a good chance for Alabama to knock out one of those, to be in it with one loss over either of those 2 other teams. Just based on strength of schedule and reputation and history.
Yeah, because Oklahoma's strength of schedule, the Big 12 is down this year. They've already beat Texas. The playoff is going to be the 2 best teams. They could conceivably be Oklahoma playing Texas again, which won't help Oklahoma. In fact, there's not a team in the Big 12 that beat Oklahoma beating them is going to help Oklahoma's rankings.
I mean, the one nice thing that Oklahoma has is you have Jalen Hurts, Heisman candidate, and as James Harden likes to point out, it's all about media stories. Him getting that team to the playoffs is a great media story.
That's the best story. Oklahoma, Alabama would have monster ratings.
Love to see.
I would too. A little bit of baseball. Great comeback by the Astros last night. So, and they'll have Garrett Cole making his start in Yankee Stadium on the next game. That's going to be a good series. I could see that series going 7 games.
Really.
And then the Nationals after a surprising 2-0 over the Cardinals. And I
both those wins come against St. Louis.
The Cardinals would win.
Right?
Yes, and now the Nationals are home for the next 3 games. So who would have thought 7 months ago that losing Bryce Harper,
crazy,
that the Nationals could be in the World Series?
But they're playing well. And again, I mean, I think they have a little house money right now too, where they're up 2-0, going back home, and like you said, nobody thought they did. So it's nice when nobody believes in you in a weird way.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. Movies. I'm looking forward to The Irishman and Motherless Brooklyn.
I have not.
Have you seen the previews for Motherless Brooklyn?
For the horror movie fans out there, Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell, which has gotten amazing reviews, is out on. You can actually watch it on demand tomorrow. And it's the culmination of his trilogy that was House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and then this will now be 3 from Hell. So, if there's horror movie fans out there. I mean, just to warn the horror movie fans, it's not a ghost movie. It's kind of a brutal horror movie. It's very 70s kind of horror. So, just if that's something you're... But I figure at this point, if you've seen the other 2, you want to watch this one. Okay. And if you haven't, you're probably not interested. But just a little reminder to people, it's out tomorrow.
For those of you that play golf, I missed a hole-in-one by 4 inches this week. I didn't even take my putter, Jason. I just walked up and kicked it in with my shoe.
Wow. I assume that's somewhat disappointing,
4 inches.
right?
Yep.
I mean, it's obviously
to be that close, it's a little disappointing.
And a birdie, but to be that close to a hole-in-one. I mean,
hey, as Uncle Dan said, you get to walk to the next tee box. It says the best scorer, has the honors of teeing off. You walk up there and look around and say, hey, does anybody have a 1? And they say no, and you had your 2 on a par 3, and you tee off.
I did. I went to Gus's world famous fried chicken.
Any food?
Legendary.
Yes. Legendary.
And I think I noticed because I have a cup from Gus's. They have like 30 locations, including one in there's one in New York and there's one in LA.
Wow, he's really expanded.
And then he's got a bunch of other ones from like Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and most of the South.
Yeah,
it's a very small menu. Their chicken has a little kick to it. They tell you it's Gus's spicy fried chicken, so you can see a little bit of it's almost got like a dark reddish hue to the breading, but it's a light breading, juicy. Comes on a slice of white bread, so I guess to soak up the grease or whatever you want to do with it, and you can order by the piece if you want. So you can just get a leg, a wing, a tender, breast, whatever you want to get, and it's I just thought it was really good food, excellent service, and not expensive. It was. I think Marie and I both got food. And I think we were like $20 with drinks, and we got the souvenir cups because why not? There's one near you, and like I said, there's one in New York and one in LA. So it's very solid, very cheap fried chicken, and it's not too much. It's enough heat that you can taste it, not enough that it would,
Yeah.
It's not going to burn your mouth by any stretch, but just enough to give it a little kick, a little flavor. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, it is. Please like and subscribe.
I guess that's our show for tonight.
If you can give us ratings on iTunes, that'd be fantastic. And if you can support us on Patreon, it'd be even better. And as a bonus for next week, the Steelers are on a bye week, so you may not even get any Steeler talk next week. Yeah.
That's right. We'll have to talk about other things.